Welcome to another episode of Crimson Sin with Tamsin Lee. I am your host, Tamsin Lee. When 24-year-old Michelle O'Connell was found dead in the St. Augustine, Florida home of her boyfriend, police officer Jeremy Banks, the official cause of death was ruled a suicide. However, the circumstances surrounding her death have raised serious questions. O'Connell, a young woman with a bright future, died from a gunshot wound to the mouth. While Banks reported the shooting, some believe the evidence suggests a more sinister outcome. A subsequent independent investigation uncovered new evidence that challenged the initial suicide ruling. This led the original medical examiner to revise their conclusion, stating that O'Connell's death was probably a homicide. The case of Michelle O'Connell remains a tragic mystery. Did she take her own life, or was there foul play involved? Michelle O'Connell, born on October 6, 1985, was raised in a close-knit family by her single mother in a small St. Augustine apartment, alongside 5 older siblings. At the age of 20, she welcomed her daughter, Alexis, into the world. Alexis became the center of O'Connell's life, and she dedicated herself to providing for her daughter. She juggled multiple jobs to support her family, ultimately achieving her goal of securing a stable position at a daycare center. This job offered both health insurance and the invaluable opportunity for Alexis to join her at work. Through her brother, Scott, also a deputy with the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office, O'Connell met Jeremy Banks, a fellow officer. At 24, she moved in with him. While Banks acknowledged that their nearly year-long relationship was often turbulent, with frequent arguments, O'Connell's family expressed concerns that these disagreements may have escalated into violence. According to the New York Times, O'Connell's sisters later revealed that she had confided in them about experiencing both physical and verbal abuse from Banks. However, she hesitated to report these incidents to the police, fearing potential repercussions for Banks, her brother, and her mother, who also worked for the St. Johns County Sheriff's Department. On the day of her death, September 2nd, 2010, Michelle O'Connell had lunch with her sister, Chrissy. During their lunch, O'Connell disclosed her intention to end her relationship with Banks that evening, expressing concern about his potential anger. Chrissy, aware of O'Connell's fears, advised her against attending the Paramore concert they had planned to attend that night, fearing for her safety. Despite her sister's concerns, O'Connell proceeded with the concert. According to ABC News, Banks later informed detectives that the couple engaged in heated arguments before, during, and after the concert. Throughout the concert, O'Connell sent cryptic text messages to Chrissy, who was babysitting Alexis at home that evening. "Promise me one thing. Lexi will be happy and always have a good life." "Promise you what?" "That no matter what, Lexi will always be safe and loved." "What's going on? I'm scared. I'll be there soon." Michelle never returned to pick up her daughter that evening. On the drive home from the concert, O'Connell informed Banks of her decision to end their relationship. Upon arriving at his residence, she began packing her belongings. At 11:20 p.m., Banks made a frantic 911 call. When deputies arrived at the scene, they found their intoxicated colleague crouched at the bathroom door, clutching his phone. In subsequent interviews, Banks claimed to have been in his garage when he heard a gunshot from inside the house. He stated that after hearing a second shot, He forcefully opened the locked bedroom door to find O'Connell lying on the carpet with a gunshot wound to her mouth, his service weapon lying beside her. Standard police protocol dictates that every death scene be investigated as a homicide until proven otherwise. However, the inexperienced detectives on the scene that night seemingly accepted Banks's account, prematurely concluding that O'Connell had died by suicide. A few hours after examining the scene, the detectives informed Michelle O'Connell's family of the suspected suicide. 2 days later, a medical examiner confirmed this initial assessment. The O'Connell family strongly disputed the suicide conclusion. They emphasized Michelle's positive outlook, citing her recent career success and upcoming social engagements. Notably, the O'Connell family was not interviewed during the initial investigation. Crime scene photos revealed inconsistencies with the suicide narrative. Banks's service weapon was found near O'Connell's left hand, despite her being right-handed. Additionally, a second bullet was lodged in the carpet near her body. The gun's retention holster, designed to make removal difficult, further raised questions. Furthermore, the tactical light on the gun barrel, typically used to improve aim, was inexplicably switched on. Unexplained details added to the confusion. O'Connell had a small cut above her right eye, and 2 empty prescription pill bottles belonging to Banks were found in her purse, though the pills themselves were missing and no traces were found in her system, according to Jacksonville.com. 12 days after the incident, Banks participated in a second videotaped interview. During this interview, he acknowledged reviewing the confidential investigative report on the shooting, a revelation that didn't lead to any disciplinary action. He was never treated like a suspect, stated Kira Morris, a friend of O'Connell, in an interview with The Times. It felt more like he was treated like a fellow officer, protected by the department. In January 2011, mounting pressure from the O'Connell family prompted Sheriff David Shore to request an independent investigation by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. The inquiry, led by Rusty Rogers, a decorated investigator, swiftly concluded that the initial investigation had been severely mishandled from the outset. Despite collecting Banks's gun, clothing, and other evidence, the initial investigation failed to conduct crucial forensic tests. Fingerprints, DNA, and gunshot residue were never analyzed. Despite bloodstains on Banks's shirt, investigators also neglected to download data from Banks's cell phone or isolate and photograph him before interviewing him. Furthermore, the initial investigation overlooked key witness testimonies. No interviews were conducted with neighbors, and no reports were filed on the observations of the responding officers. Rogers' independent investigation uncovered crucial new information. 2 neighbors reported hearing a heated argument and screams emanating from Banks's house that night. They described hearing a woman cry, "Help," followed by a gunshot, and then "help" again, followed by a second gunshot. Both neighbors passed polygraph tests. Rogers also interviewed Alexis, Michelle O'Connell's daughter, who reportedly told ABC News that Banks was a bad person and had previously physically abused her mother. Based on the neighbor testimonies, Dr. Frederick Hoban, the original pathologist, privately revised his conclusion from suicide to homicide. However, this change was not formally documented and was only disclosed to the state attorney. Rogers' investigation included interviewing the O'Connell family, submitting evidence for forensic testing, and engaging a crime scene reconstruction expert. In February 2011, the forensic results returned, presenting a series of troubling inconsistencies. No blood was detected on Banks's gun, and his fingerprints and DNA were notably absent from the weapon, despite his having worn the gun belt during his previous shift. Banks denied cleaning his gun before the police arrived that night, and also denied washing his hands prior to the gunshot residue test. Despite his close proximity to the body after O'Connell's death, the test revealed surprisingly low levels of gunshot residue on his hands. O'Connell's DNA was found on Banks's gun, but curiously absent from the 2 pill bottles in her purse. 2 tiny spots of O'Connell's blood were discovered on the inside of Banks's t-shirt, a fact he couldn't explain. The crime scene reconstructionist uncovered significant discrepancies. The analysis indicated the shooter would have had to be left-handed, while O'Connell was right-handed, and Banks is left-handed. The reconstructionist ultimately concluded that the circumstances were consistent with a homicide. Despite these findings, Dr. Hoban, the original pathologist, never formally amended the death certificate. The state attorney instructed him to withhold the change, pending further investigation. Subsequently, a new chief medical examiner upheld the original suicide ruling. When a special prosecutor informed the O'Connell family that the official cause of death would remain suicide, Scott O'Connell, Michelle's brother, erupted in anger, losing his job as a sheriff's deputy. Sheriff Shore subsequently released a 152-page report assessing his agency's investigation and criticizing Rogers' findings. While acknowledging some mistakes made by his own team, the report largely defended his agency's actions. Banks filed a civil lawsuit against Rogers, alleging civil rights violations due to his detention during the investigation. In 2018, a judge dismissed the suit, finding probable cause for Banks' detention on homicide charges. Despite being rehired by Sheriff Shore, Scott O'Connell later distanced himself from his family, accusing the state agency of manipulating them into believing Michelle was murdered. In 2016, Michelle O'Connell's body was exhumed for further examination. A forensic pathologist discovered a previously undocumented jaw fracture, raising questions about potential blunt force trauma prior to the fatal gunshot. Despite the mounting evidence, Michelle O'Connell's death remains officially classified as a suicide. Her family continues their relentless pursuit of justice. "You can't grieve until you get justice," Patty O'Connell, Michelle's mother, told ABC News. "You have to have your justice, and it never goes away." In January 2019, the case took a tragic turn with the homicide of Ellie Washtok, an amateur sleuth investigating Michelle O'Connell's death. Washtok's death remains unsolved. Patty O'Connell believes Washtok was murdered for their investigative efforts. Jeremy Banks, despite the accumulating evidence and the numerous inconsistencies in the official narrative, has never faced criminal charges and continues to serve as a St. Johns County Sheriff's deputy. What are your thoughts on today's case? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for listening and your support. Stay safe, and I will see you for the next episode.